The interpretation of seeing wars in dreams. If a person sees a war in a dream, this symbolizes severe worries facing the dreamer. If a person sees a war in a dream, this may be a sign of disease outbreaks. If a person sees a war in a dream, this may denote diseases and epidemics. If a person sees war between two countries in a dream, this symbolizes the psychological effect he experienced by the surroundings. If a person goes to shelters in a dream, this means that a protector for him will be hired. The interpretation of being victorious in a war in a dream. This indicates getting out of sedition or victory in a rivalry. If a person becomes victorious in a war in a dream, this may refer to an increase in livelihood and the arrival of many joyful days, which will lead to his happiness. If a person becomes victorious in a war in a dream, this indicates the ability to achieve his ambitions and goals that he has been striving for a long time. If a person becomes victorious in a war in a dream, he will be able to find ideal solutions to all problems. The interpretation of seeing aerial warfare in dreams. Dreaming of aerial warfare indicates intense competition at work for living. If a person sees warplanes fighting in the sky in a dream, this indicates a great struggle in his work for positions and promotions. It was said that aerial warfare in a dream indicates a conflict between kings or politicians. Participating in aerial warfare in a dream symbolizes striving to achieve victory in competition. If a person sees himself flying a warplane in a dream, this means that he will achieve his goals quickly. If a person sees himself flying a warplane in a dream, this dream may indicate the dreamer's superiority over his peers in the dispute or challenge. If a person sees aircraft attacking in a dream, this may indicate a calamity from the sky. If a person sees planes attacking randomly in a dream, this may symbolize general calamities. If a person escapes from an aircraft bombing in a dream, this indicates escaping from major conflicts or calamities. The interpretation of seeing tanks in a dream. It indicates the ability to make the right decisions in life and exploit the opportunities that come to the dreamer and to leads to his success. The interpretation of demolitioning homes in a dream. This may refer to a calamity that is about to happen to him and turn his life upside down. If a person sees homes being demolished in a dream, this may refer to the division that is made between people. The interpretation of being a war prisoner in a dream. This may indicate a widespread inflation in the country. If a person executes prisoners of war in a dream, this refers to the destruction of weak and poor enemies. Other forms of wars in a dream worth interpreting. If a person sees a war between two kings or two massive armies in a dream, in this case, war is a scourge or a sedition. If a person sees a war between a king and crowds in a dream, this indicates low prices of food. If a person sees a civil war in a dream, this indicates a sedition and high prices of food. The interpretation of attacking and starting a war in a dream. This means that the dreamer is unable to get rid of sorrows and worries that he suffers from. The interpretation of ending wars in a dream. This generally means goodness and righteousness. If a side won a war over the other in a dream, this indicates the improvement of people's conditions if the victorious party is righteous. If a side won a war over the other in a dream, this indicates the corruption of people and their conditions if the victorious party is the corrupt party. The interpretation of seeing wars in dreams for a single girl. This indicates that she challenges society, customs and traditions. If a single girl sees a war between two countries in a dream, this indicates that she struggles with her parents. If a single girl takes part in a war in a dream, this means that her behavior is rejected by society. The interpretation of seeing missiles in a dream for a single girl. This indicates rapid and major changes in her life. If a single girl hears the bombing and falling missiles in a dream, this indicates the anxiety and fear she suffers from. The interpretation of seeing wars in dreams for a married woman. This refers to the disputes in her family. If a married woman takes part in a war in a dream, this means she will be dragged into a sedition. If a married woman sees a war in a dream, this may refer to disputes in her marital life. If a married woman sees a war between two countries in a dream, this may refer to a dispute between the elders of her family. If a married woman sees a war between two countries in a dream, this may refer to a dispute between her family and her husband's family. If a married woman sees a war in her country in a dream, this indicates high prices or a sedition in that country. If a married woman dies in a war in a dream, This refers to a tough rivalry. If a married woman escapes from a war in a dream, this means that she will escape from a sedition or not interfere in a family problem. If a married woman survives a war in a dream, this refers to survival from danger and evil. The interpretation of seeing a war in a dream for a pregnant woman. If a pregnant woman takes part in a war in a dream, this indicates that she will deliver her baby with ease and comfort. The interpretation of seeing wars in dreams for a man. If a man sees a war in a dream, this may refer to the bad relationship between him and his family. If a man sees a war in his dream, this may be a sign of many negative changes to the worse in his life. If a person goes to war in a dream, this expresses his inability to manage his life's affairs. If a person sees a war in a dream, this means he will suffer from a severe health problem that will prevent him from living his life well. If a working person sees a war in a dream, this may lead to his resignation from the job, due to the problems he is exposed to, which will lead to financial and psychological instability. If a man dreams of fighting in a war and he's the victorious, this indicates the ability to confront opponents, defeat them, and regain all of his stolen rights. The interpretation of seeing a war in dreams for a divorced woman. This refers to the bad luck pursuing her. If a divorced woman sees a war in a dream, this expresses her inability to overcome the obstacles and bad times she was exposed to. If a divorced woman escapes from a war in a dream, this means that many positive changes will occur in her life that will make her more stable. If you like this video, don't forget to push the bell button, subscribe and like.